My guest is Hampus Lofkvist. He is the Vice President of Global Sales and Marketing Services for Sportradar. Sportradar is a proud partner of Sports Business Radio. You can learn more about Sportradar online at sportradar.com. Hampus, thanks for joining me so much on Sports Business Radio. How are you?
Hi, Brian. I'm well, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Give us a little bit of an overview about your role at Sportradar and just background in the sports industry before we dive into this conversation.
Yeah, cool. So I'm the VP of Sales for our global marketing services here at Sportradar. What that means is that I lead our advertising and sponsorship sales and client partner teams. So we're responsible for helping our clients and partners reach, engage, and acquire customers, right? So that's brands from various sectors that we work with. The common denominator is that the target audience is ultimately all sports fans. And I've been at Sportradar for 7.5 years. I'm based in New York. I was in our London office before that. And before Sportradar, I worked agency side, and before that, rights holder side. So I was 9 years at UEFA. So in soccer, where I was focusing on sponsorship and licensing, building that business across large competitions like the Champions League, Europa League, Euros. So yeah, I've always worked in sports. So I think this is a good podcast to join you on.
Many of our listeners know Sportradar for sports data and technology, but can you give us an overview of Sportradar's broader business and where marketing services fit into that?
Sure. Yeah. So, as you know, Sportradar, right? We're the leading sports technology company, and we sit at that intersection between sports, media, and sports betting. And what that means is that we're constantly enabling that next generation engagement in sports. Now, while sports betting is a large part of our business, I also mentioned media and broadcast. And in the case of marketing sectors, where sports is central to marketing strategies for a lot of companies, we're also working with companies from other sectors in terms of helping them with both things like brand awareness as well as customer acquisition strategy. So at the end of the day, to answer your question, marketing services is a natural extension to us of our broader business, where we utilize our position in terms of sports intelligence, data, and tech, and then create measurable marketing outcomes for our customers. And I think, yeah, we're going to talk a bit about that today.
Yeah, sports marketing has changed dramatically. What are the biggest shifts that you're seeing reshape the industry right now?
Good question. And this comes up a lot, right? When we have these types of conversations. And I think for a while now, everyone's been talking about how fragmented the whole digital landscape is. And I think where sports really plays a valuable part is that brands recognize that this is one of the differentiators, right? Sports is still one thing that stands out in terms of its liveness, the appointment to view around, set schedules where, people gather around screens to watch, and then this kind of global virality, if you will, of the moments and outcomes that come from sports. So what resonates with today's fans is the marketing that's actually able to kind of react in terms of the game that they're watching and meets them in those moments. And I think that's a hard thing to do. But if you're using technology and data in the right way, and that's one of the things that we put a lot of attention into building, then yeah, you're really able to capture that, let's say, shrinking but very lucrative attention. And yeah, that's what when we talk about sports moments, ultimately that's what we're talking about.
There are plenty of advertising and ad tech companies operating around sporting events. What makes a sports technology company like Sportradar uniquely qualified to deliver stronger campaigns?
Sure. Yeah. So sports is, as we talked a bit about, inherently different from traditional media because it's live,
Right.
It's emotional, and it's unpredictable, right? All things that we love about this industry and this, sports that we love and follow. So I think the first part in terms of your question is understanding the audience and knowing how to reach them. So Sportradar, as I think Brian, like we're leading in terms of our partnerships across the sports ecosystem. So that spans leagues, federations, broadcasters, clients. So we have a very wide level of context when it comes to understanding the sports audiences that we're trying to reach on behalf of our clients. And the second part to this is like, well, you got to reach the right target audience, the sports fan at the end of the day. But once you do, how do you capture that attention? And adding value to that experience in terms of, what creative are you ultimately serving to the fan, the customer, responding to what's going on in the game, for example, celebrating a moment, offering something back to that fan in return for their interest. If you get that right and you show the customer something of value, and I think you're more likely to be rewarded with their interest, and then obviously ultimately hopefully their business.
What's unique about sports marketing compared to marketing around other forms of entertainment? I mean, I know we kind of just talked about it, the live
Yeah.
factor and the unpredictability, but is there anything else to add there?
Yeah, it's really that, right? It's the live factor, but it's that shared emotion in the sense that like fans don't just consume sport. People are emotionally invested in it. So being able to leverage that emotional connection is quite a powerful thing to do as a brand, as an advertiser, as a sponsor. But again, you got to get it right. You got to be at the right time and the right place, but you also have to have the right message. And combining those three things, I think, is what we're helping our clients do.
Can you expand a bit more on the concept of moments planning and buying?
Sure. So our sports moment value proposition is based on three pillars, right? So you have sports audiences, sports supply, and sports creative. And all of this comes together in terms of a purpose-built fan activation. So when it comes to audiences, as you know, Sportradar serves the full sports ecosystem. We understand the fan, and we know and we have access to tap into the relevant audiences. Then, in terms of supply, right? At the end of the day, in terms of advertising, you got to know where to serve an ad or a creative that gets in front of that person. And fan attention lives across so many different channels, right? We all know and experience this ourselves. Like, how many screens do we look at each day? Your phone, your laptop, the TV in the office, the TV at home, digital out of home screens on your way to work. There's so many different places as part of the customer journey, and being able to tap into those is the second part here. And then finally, as I mentioned before, is the creative. So, and I think this is often an asset in even modern digital advertising, which isn't always used to the full capability of the extent. So, and I think that's where we are able to help our customers change that. How? This is where sports moments gets really powerful. We use triggers around the events that we work with across Sportradar. So the data points that we want to tap into, we're able to detect moments that are happening live in games, be it goals that are scored, be it yellow or red cards in soccer, be it substitutions, be it any moment, right? Any moment is addressable. And if a brand wants to tap into that moment, then we make that possible. And combining all of those three things is when we talk about moments advertising, that's how we also see how modern advertising in sports is evolving, and frankly where it needs to be, right? Not just planning a media calendar around when games are happening and buying media on that day, but actually tapping into the moments that are happening within the game, because ultimately that's what the fans are reacting to and will remember.
I mean, you just talked about a goal or a red card. Do you have
Sure.
like a moment that stands out, like as an example that you're like, I remember this and this is how we capitalized around it?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think we all remember thinking back to like the big sports events that we're each passionate about. Like, I don't necessarily remember the day that that game was played on, the
Right.
date that that game was played on, but we remember who was playing, who scored, who hit the game winner, who delivered, something that kind of decided the outcome of that game. And whether that's, I'm a big soccer as well as tennis fan. I remember um, a game between Nadal and Djokovic in Paris. Djokovic was really challenging Nadal to finally beat him on his favorite surface. And there was this one point where Djokovic could have kind of taken a lead in the deciding set, but he touched the net. If you touch the net in tennis, you lose the point. And it kind of changed the outcome of that set. And ultimately, Nadal won the game and then won the tournament again, right? And this was years and years ago before I even worked at Sportradar. But these are the types of things that fans remember, and
Yeah.
making those moments addressable in terms of advertising and in terms of kind of that value add back. If a brand who, was associated to that event or one of those players, wanted to be right there online when people were getting on their phones to watch a highlight of that, that can be quite powerful. And this can seem a little daunting. Like, how do we make that happen? But yeah, making that really easy. That's kind of where Sportradar has a unique positioning that does that.
Why is it important that Sportradar owns its own tech stack?
Good question. So one of the key reasons we can do all the things that we've talked about today is because we own our own marketing technology. So Sportradar built and operates its own demand side platform, DSP, which allows us to basically activate campaigns across all major digital advertising channels. Basically, anywhere that you can buy supply programmatically, we're able to access that inventory. And allowing our own tech stack gives us it's effectively a continuous and uninterrupted understanding of fan behavior as well as the campaign performance. Are we hitting the KPIs that our client wants to deliver on when it comes to this specific campaign? And I think another part that's also, worth calling out, like sports is premium, right? Buying sports inventory is expensive and specifically during big events, right? Like advertisers are fighting for inventory, which, to be in front of these fans who are heavily invested. So, whatever you can do in terms of, driving more efficient buying against that inventory. In our case, one of the ways that we do that is owning our own tech, which means that, there's less reliance on third parties, transparent fee structure, etc. I think that's also a key ultimately benefit of owning our own technology. And then matching that proprietary. Pause there. I'm going to conclude. So that combination of proprietary technology and unmatched sports data, that creates a differentiated offering in the market that we're proud about.
To talk about big moments for a minute, World Cup is coming up. There's nothing bigger than World Cup. Can you paint a picture of what moments-based marketing around the upcoming FIFA World Cup could look like for brands?
Sure. So again, it's almost an endless possibility in terms of like which moment do you want to leverage. We could sit here and brainstorm about how many different data points there are in soccer. You mentioned the World Cup or almost any sport, right? Having the ability for real-time activation allows brands to tell stories that are then aligned with these live conversations that are happening during these games. So, take an example in the World Cup. There's one of the major sponsors. They are owning the hydration breaks that you're going to see during the games on TV. They own that from a broadcast experience. You're going to see that brand. If they also wanted to own that moment when it came to second screens, so the game goes to a hydration break, you pick up your phone to see what's going on. That would be a moment that you could basically plan the campaign against to react to, and then ultimately acquire inventory during that exact time, which is impossible to know in advance, right? Because you don't know when the referee is going to blow the exact whistle to have a hydration break. That would just be one example. At the end of the day, like I said, it's up to each brand, and this is where marketeers, I think, can get quite creative in terms of like which moment do we want to make addressable, what fits into our wider marketing strategy. We work with some broadcasters as well in terms of who are starting to utilize our moments marketing. Broadcasters, be it RSNs or major OTT platforms, they want to drive tune in ultimately, right? So they're using things like dynamic countdowns, how many days, how many hours are left until this exact game starts. Or we're driving some tune in for NASCAR. When does this race start? What's the dynamic leaderboard? All things that you can include into your advertising creative, which does more in terms of a fan value, coming back to kind of that word, than just, a static message. And I think, making that whole process very simple for the advertiser is where we've seen a lot of traction.
Let's end with this. What should brands looking to advertise around sports be focused on right now? We always like to give people a glimpse into the future. What
Sure.
should you be looking ahead towards? How would you answer that?
Yeah, good question. Can you believe we went on this whole podcast and didn't talk about AI? So, this would be the time, right?
Sure.
I think, the future here and to an extent, as we've already talked about today, the now as well, of efficient sports marketing, campaign strategy execution. It means leveraging AI and live data, but also using that to tap into the emotions of moments. And that's really what moments are about, right? They are powerful, emotive moments that fans remember and celebrate or sometimes are upset about, but making it simple for advertisers to move beyond static campaigns. So embracing agility, personalization, real-time engagement. The technology now allows brands to do that. And I think, jumping in there, learning about it, and then utilizing it in the way that works for you and your marketing strategy. Those are the conversations and those are the campaigns that we are helping clients deliver. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this only keeps growing.
Hampus Lofkvist, the Vice President of Global Sales and Marketing Services for Sportradar. Thanks so much for joining us. If people want to get in touch with Sportradar to find out more about how they could potentially partner with you, how they could be assisted by you, should they just go to sportradar.com? Is there another way that they can reach out?
Yeah, you can always go to our website. You can go to our LinkedIn site. We're not hard to find, right? To look us up, reach out. We'd be happy to have a conversation. We've got a really talented team here in New York, but also in our offices around the world. So do reach out. And yeah, we'd be happy to learn a bit more about how we can help.
Hampus, thank you so much.
Thank you as well, Brian. It's been a pleasure.